One lady came up to me at a seminar and said, "My husband is an alcoholic, and we're about to get a divorce." And I said, "Why don't you just write no alcohol on the stakes and stake your home?" And she didn't even tell her husband. She did that, and he quit alcohol, and it saved their marriage. I found out a year later. You can't make this stuff up. It's the power of the word and the act of faith. This is why Abraham's actions made his faith complete. If you act on it, then you believe it. If I say, well, his word is going to protect me, I'm going to put it around my property, put it with sticky notes, put it on popsicle sticks, or use the really cool stakes like we have. But the thing is, do it. Do something.
Right.
When it was time to carry the ark across the flood stage, and go conquer Jericho, God didn't just part the waters and they said, "Oh, great, let's get the ark." Mm-hmm. No, they picked up the Ark of the Covenant, and when the feet of the priest touched the water, that's when they had to do the action first. God needs you to join what he's going to do and prove that you're going to do that, and everything changes. I
was just talking with Samson. We were in the scripture and we were talking, literally talking about faith. This was 2 days ago, and was talking about, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. You were talking about Gideon. So I was explaining to him, I'm like, okay, I believe it's 3,000, and God's like, okay. And I mean, they're going against an army with giants and who knows what, 10 times larger than them. And God says, no, that's not hard enough. Go down, lap up the water, and 300 of them lap up like dogs. The other ones bring the water into their hands. And he's like, okay, send everybody home. So now you got 300 against this huge, and he tells them to go to these different areas. It's like, who would think that's a good idea? Like, who would think? But they did it with faith, and what's God do? He sends the enemy camp into chaos, confusion. They start fighting among themselves, and they win. But to your point, they had to act with faith. Yep, they did. So, I could tell you stories all day, but your listeners will probably get tired of me. So thank you for letting me come and share a few of them today. Can you share one more story before we go? Sure. So you told me a story that wasn't in your books back in it was in the fall of 2023. I was about to go to Denver. You were telling me about this gal that came over from the Far East. Her family kind of were Buddhists, I think, and she'd been going to church, and because the one with the dream, and she goes to and every question she had. Oh yeah. She's from South Korea. Okay. This goes back all the way to the Heaven book, my first book. When that's two different guys, you mentioned it. Two guys didn't even know my dad, and they said, you need to write a book about your dad. Well, then when the second time it happened, I said, okay, shoot, I guess I'm going to have to do this. And I was enjoying studying what the Bible said about heaven and organizing it into group kind of things, topics, but I wasn't qualified or organized enough, I guess that's how I say it, to write a book. So when the second guy said, you're supposed to write a book, God sent me to tell you, I went, okay, then I'm going to pray about that. And I prayed, strange prayer. I said, Lord, if it's true that you want me to write a book, I don't want to, but if it's true, then I need two things from you. I believe in praying very specific. I said, I need two things. I need the titles of the chapters and the order they go in. Simple little prayer. I woke up at 3 a.m. and in my head was a voice saying, chapter 1 is this, chapter 2 is this, chapter 3 is it, chapter 4. And I got up and wrote those on a sticky note. I'm telling you, that's how I got the chapters, and the order they went in was because I woke up in the night and God gave it to me. I didn't even remember that the next morning. I got up and found the sticky note and I went, oh yeah, God gave me these. This is the chapters, so that's what I used. So fast forward about a year and my book is published and I get invited to speak at a college lectureship in Arkansas because there's no books on heaven. They're doing a lectureship on heaven. And this young Korean girl was in the lectures and bought the book. And then she said, I need to talk to you. And my wife and I met with her in the little student center there on campus. And she said, I want you to know my story. She said, I was raised in South Korea in a family, they're atheists. Mm-hmm. And I got accepted into the foreign exchange student program, and I got put in South Texas with some Christians. And every Sunday they went to church. Well, I'm an atheist, but I didn't want to stay at their house by myself, so I went with them to church.
but I listened to the preacher and I read the Bible, and I'm now a Christian. But I was scared to die and go to heaven because I did not want to be a floating ghost. Many, many people think that you're going to be a floating ghost. The Bible does not teach that. The Bible teaches resurrection and restoration, and then changed into immortals with some kind of a tangible body. Corinthians talks about that, and Thessalonians talks about meeting him in the air, and then we'll be changed into immortal, all that. Well, that was all encouraged. So she told me, she said, I was so scared to die and go to heaven that I wrote a list of questions about heaven, and I kept them in my Bible. And anytime heaven came up, I would pull that list of questions out, listening to everybody's discussion and the answers, wanting to find the answers to these questions. Nobody ever had even one single answer to any of my questions on the list until I heard your lectures and read your book. Your book answered every question on my list in the same order I had them written down. Question 1 answered in chapter 1. Question 2, and now where did I get the chapter titles and the orders? 3 o'clock in the morning, God woke me up and said, "Here's the chapter title." Only God can do that.